Audio Jungle.
Right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our program today. I think it's going to be an exciting, a very fun, a very eye-opening program on the real women in the laundry industry. So, many of you've probably spent some time on either TikTok or YouTube, and you may have seen videos claiming laundromats are passive income. You buy a store, you collect the quarters, and you just watch that money roll right in. But anyone who actually owns and operates a laundromat knows the truth is a little more complicated than that. So, behind every successful store are real people solving real problems. Machines going down on a busy Saturday, attendants calling sick, plumbing surprises, customer issues, everything else that comes with running a service business. So today we are very lucky. We're going to hear from an incredible group of women who are not only owners and operators, but they're leaders in this industry. And they are here today to share their real stories, their real challenges, and the real rewards of running a laundromat. All right, so I forgot to share my screen. Let me do that real quick so that I can introduce the panelists to you guys. All right. So before we do get into it, though, it's always helpful if we kind of know who is on this webinar. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat adding your name, your business name, if you have a laundromat or you work for a company, and where you are from. You heard some of us talking about where we're from based on weather, but if you can add that, we can kind of get a feel for who's on. So I am Danielle Bauer, and I should have started with that. I work for CLA. I'm the executive vice president, and I'm going to be the facilitator today. And we have three wonderful panelists. We have Catherine Chalpin from Poppin Laundry, which you said is in New York. We have Christina Icabelli, College Coin Laundry in 97 degree San Diego. And then we have Kate Wolf of Laundry Lane in Pennsylvania. So a mix of people and places. So I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to ask some questions of the ladies, and I want to be able to see them. So I have about 9 questions or so that I'm going to ask them, but feel free to add in the chat your own questions. And after we get through these, we will get to those questions because I'm sure you're going to have some as we're going through. All right. So to keep us moving, I probably will ask 2 of the 3 of you each of these questions, but if you have something else to say, feel free. I want to make this more a conversation. The first one, though, I'm actually going to ask of all 3 of you because I think we want to know what originally drew you to the laundromat industry and what surprised you the most after getting started. So I'm going to start with you, Christina, because you're on my left.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Christina Iacobelli. My store is in Oceanside, California. I've been an owner for 31 years. The reason I got into the business, or what attracted me, was I had some family members, tight, like close family members and extended family that owned laundromats and car washes. So they owned coin-op businesses, but they also owned construction companies and other businesses. And I could see that they were able to manage both. And when I started having children, I wanted to be able to stay home and make an income. And so I needed something that had some flexibility. And I started really getting serious about what people around me were doing. So that's what attracted me into the industry.
What surprised you the most after you got started? Because you've been in the business a long time.
It's not passive income. It's hilarious. actually, that people think that. And because well, they don't know what they don't know, and they're being exposed through social media and these little clips and videos. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's a business, and you're going to tend to it, or it will die.
Thank you. So Kate, same question. What drew you to the industry and what surprised you the most?
So I actually saw on TikTok years ago when it first came out, like you should own a laundromat business. It's passive. I knew that it was not going to be passive, and I wanted to get into a business, and I wanted something that I didn't have to be there all day, every day, like a restaurant or something like that. So I had been looking for businesses actively, and when I saw a laundromat come up, I was like, "That's it. That's mine." So I very much manifested it and went towards it. The thing that surprised me the most, though, is the community that comes with the laundromats. You know, it's I went into business because I wanted a business. Now I stay in the business because I enjoy it so much. I mean, there's so many customers that come in and thank us for what we're doing. It's the community hub, it's a community resource. So that's the thing that surprised me the most.
Nice. And how many years have you been in the business?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. And then lastly, Catherine, you're our, I believe, newest to the industry. So what drew you to the industry and what has surprised you the most?
Okay, yes. I'm Kat Chalpin from Poppin Laundry in Poughkeepsie, New York. Originally, what drew me was similar to Kate. I was browsing through Instagram and I saw someone unloading quarters into a bucket. And I had already had content that was geared towards real estate investing. And so I started getting a mix of laundromat and real estate investing. I sold rental properties. And I sold the first one I ever bought to buy this laundromat in my journey started last January. I got the lease in September and I opened January 21st. And what surprised me the most is I was prepared to do a lot of work, but to really get this off the ground, it is another 40-hour job. I have a day job. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning working on it in the morning, working on it in the afternoons, working on it in the weekends as well. So just to reiterate, it is not passive. It's another job to get this plane really going.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to you, Christina. So before owning a laundromat, what did you think the business was like versus what it actually is?
Much like what Kate and Catherine described, I thought it was more where I would just kind of pop in and pop out, be home with the kids. It's so easy. I can do the bookkeeping at home. It runs itself. Uh, and then the reality was, um, it gets filthy dirty super fast within an hour. If you turn your back 1 hour, it looks like you let a bunch of preschoolers run loose or a circus came through. I mean, you won't believe how messy things get and how much attention your equipment actually needs from you. Bill changers need to be filled if you've got coins. Repairs need to be done. Parts need to be ordered. You're almost on a daily basis, either marketing, buying parts, running errands, going to the bank, collecting. It's much more than what I thought from a distance it would be. Much more hands-on, especially repairs.
Yes, thank you. So Kate, I'm going to ask you the same thing. So before owning the laundromat, what did you think the business would be like versus what it actually is?
I thought that it would be a lot less customer problem solving than it is. I mean, I get phone calls. I have 2 locations, so I get phone calls very frequently. Something didn't work. They were trying to buy soap, and the soap dispenser machine jammed, somebody's chips in it fall from the vending machine. The TikToks that are telling you it's passive income, I knew it wasn't passive, but I didn't realize how much time I'd be spending on customer things and trying to, if someone's upset, trying to calm them down or resolve issues, find out, what happened, refund money, things like that.
So Catherine, I'm going to ask you a little bit different question. So I know you haven't been in it long, but it took you a year as you were getting ready to open. So can you share a moment when you realized, okay, this is like the real laundromat business?
Wow. Okay. So I think it really became real, and this is an odd thing, and this is just what popped into my mind is when there was a giant hole in a storage closet where the sewer line comes out from where the washers are. There's a giant hole dug in it where the lint trap was going. And just to see that giant hole with the missing pipe, and I was just like, this is for real now. And it went from there. There are several other moments as well, like opening day, the moment I got the permit to open, I hung the phone up and I screamed at the top of my lungs. That was also like, wow, we can open now.
Um, Thank you. So next question, I'm going to ask Kate and Catherine because you both said that in doing your research to get in, you did watch TikTok, you watch YouTube. So we'll start with you, Kate. What do you think the biggest misconception those videos create now that you're really in it?
Just one. So I would say definitely that you're just going to be making so much money. You don't know what to do with. You see the videos where there's piles of cash and they're counting their piles of cash. Um, I think Christina mentioned it takes a lot of work to get to that point. You can't just stay at home and then get those big piles of cash. You have to market, you have to take care of your customers, you have to keep your laundromat clean. So I think that's probably the biggest one. Secondary to just collecting quarters, I think is the big one that we hear all the time. And those quarters are heavy, by the way. The buckets of quarters are heavy. So
How about you, Catherine? And you said you prepared or you did your research watching videos. What do you think is the biggest misconception that the videos create?
Well, since we already covered the cash money part of it, I'm gonna say a good second would be cleaning. I haven't seen many YouTubes, TikToks, Instagrams on how real dirty it can get and where the stuff goes and where the lint goes. Even in a short time being open, there's lint in the little key mechanism for the dryers. Just, it's amazing. It hides everywhere. So it really is a full wipe down, clean down, and perhaps that's a hole that someone can fill in the Instagram and TikTok world right now. Show us your
Yes.
dirty laundromat, then show us your nice clean laundromat.
Yeah, like a before and after, maybe. So Christina, what are some of the sort of behind the scenes realities that people don't see on social media, which Catherine kind of alluded to one, cleaning lint and toilets and all those fun things. But what else do you think is kind of a behind the scene reality people don't see?
Well, both Kate and Catherine touched on what I was thinking in my mind is, well, first and foremost, this is extremely physical. Okay, you're not sitting at a desk. I'm also a realtor. My real estate job is more mental. This is 100% physical. You're cleaning as an attendant. When you collect, I collect 4 times a week for 31 years. I have a bad shoulder, bad elbow. I just had shots done in my wrists a week ago. They're killing me, but your back hurts. I mean, it is very physical. very physical. The behind the scenes is you're going to Costco, flopping all your seats down, and you're filling it up with everything that needs to go to your vending machine, cleaning supplies, front to back, top to bottom, side to side. You're unloading it 4 times, once from the shelf to your cart, the cart to your car to a laundry cart into your back room. You need to understand plumbing and electrical, like big time. You need to learn what your machines, how they operate, what parts do they need. You can't always depend on your repair person to do it. You kind of have to self-diagnose, get to know your machines well enough to self-diagnose, have those parts on hand, keep those parts ready so that when that person comes to repair, you've got it there. There's a lot of paperwork and bookkeeping involved, a lot of time being spent behind the scenes, going to the bank, running errands, picking up supplies. It's so much more than just what's going on inside the store. There's a lot going outside the store as well, even if you're not physically there. It is, yes, I can be a full-time realtor and still run my laundromat, but I work there full-time too. So it is going to be a full-time job. It might be flexible and broken up hours where it's not solid, but there's a lot going on with a laundromat.
Yeah, based on what you said, it's like you need to have skills in many different areas. So, there's like you said, the electrical and the plumbing. You need to be a little bit of an accountant to run your books. You need to know marketing to get your customers in there, customer service. So, I mean, that's a lot of different skill sets. So, I love some of the comments. Carrie says, finally, I feel seen. Nobody really gets it unless they live it. So, thought that was good. So Kate or Catherine, anything else you want to add? Christina covered a lot that you think is kind of a behind the scene reality that social media just doesn't show.
Christina did a fantastic job describing some of the things that we don't actually get to see. And I'm going to also start doing some TikToks on my cleaning because that's a fantastic idea too. But I would say the cost of the things that we have within our laundromat, and the decisions that go behind them. We were in business for about 6 months, when we were realizing that our old card system just wasn't cutting it. It was causing us a lot of stress, and it was causing our customers a lot of stress. We were having to physically be present way more often than we wanted to be. And we had to decide, because we were card system, do we want to retool and go to, coin? Do we want to do hybrid? Do we want to replace the system? Do we want to repair, if that's possible, this system? And just getting those quotes and talking to different professionals and getting their opinions and then ultimately making that decision. Those things cost a lot of money. I mean, we ended up spending tens of thousands of dollars on a new system. And that's something that I don't think is discussed enough, because people are saying like, oh, we know the brands, but I don't know if they know how much things actually cost. One washer can cost you $20,000 depending on who you go with and what size. So.
Good point. I'm going to take a little break from my questions because I do want to make sure I capture some of these because they're rolling in. So I'll ask all three of you if you can kind of give an estimate about how many hours per week you're in your laundromat.
I'll jump in. So
Okay.
I'm physically in the laundromat probably 30 minutes every weekday, and then at least an hour on Sunday, an hour on Saturday if I'm not covering someone's shift, if they had called out and we didn't get anybody else to fill in. So that's kind of how often I'm in there, but I'm at home too, working on the computer at least 2 or 3 hours in the
Right.
morning, several hours in the evening, as well on weekends.
How about you?
Oh, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead, Kate.
Thanks, Christina. No, I was going to say the same thing. Catherine, I physically go to my locations. I would say I'm probably about 5 to 10 hours a week officially physically in the location, depending on what's going on. If there's problems, it's going to add to that, right? If I have issues with the machines or issues with customers, issues with employees, I'll be there more. But I spent a lot more time fielding phone calls on the phone with vendors, trying to learn, listening to podcasts, communicating with other owners, doing the books, all the things that have already been mentioned. So physically being in the store doesn't require as much of my attention. When we first got started, though, my husband and I were our only employees, and so we did everything. So when I first bought the businesses, I was probably putting about 25 hours a week, if not more, in just one location. So yeah, it's a time commitment in the beginning until you can kind of move to that point where you can step out a little bit when you have employees.
And my experience is much like what Kate mentioned. If I'm fully staffed, because I usually will have 4 to 5 employees, everybody part-time. I'm a fully attended store from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., but I had to work my way up to that. See, we used to do it, when I say we, me and my, back when I originally bought the laundromat, I was in it with my parents and my ex-husband, but for 25 years or 26 years now, I've run it on my own. So the store had to start making enough money to afford employees. When I'm fully staffed, I'm much like what Catherine and Kate said. It's 5 to 10 hours a week, sometimes a little more if there's emergencies or there's other things that require my attention. Um, but now I've also become a hybrid store as of November. I take cash and card, which reduces a little bit of my collection. But I'm still 60% coin and 40% card. Right now, I'm short staffed, so I have been working 30 to 40 hours a week the last few months, and I've been interviewing. So my hope is to get back to that 10 hours a week is my comfortable spot. When everybody's fully trained and they operate the store like I do, then I'm comfortable at 10 hours a week. Otherwise, I'm in there. I'm taking care of my customers. They need direct care.
So kind of related to that one question, if all 3 of you could kind of estimate like how long you were in it before you can hire people to kind of take some of that load off, or maybe you don't have attendance, but I think all 3 of you said you do.
Yeah. So I am fully attended and I hired staff members before I opened to train them, to get them familiar with the systems and processes. And I had budgeted for that when I designed how I was going to operate my laundromat.
Okay.
And so I am fully attended 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Um, and it's just worked out really nicely that way. Yes, I've had to fill in. Yes, there are emergencies, but that's really how I set it up, and it's worked out really nicely. It paid off in dividends to have them pre-trained for opening.
How about Christina or Kate? How long, Christina, you mentioned that at first it was just you, and I think you did too, Kate. Like how long were you in before you were able to hire someone to kind of take that load off?
I was probably about 5 or 6 years in when I started to really get a good chunk of the daytime fill. I always had a night person, always from the very beginning, from the get-go. I've always had someone that comes in the evening and then, deep cleans for, 6 hours, whatever, and would close the store. Um, and then it started to become more and more and more with time. I was probably 5 or 6 years in. My store can afford fully attended like Catherine, where I'm the one that floats in and out to do what I need to do. It's just really going to depend on your location, your pricing, what your competitors are doing. It's really hard to answer that question because I'm in Southern California where it's very expensive. So it could take a while, whereas maybe in another state, you can do it right out of the gate or within a year or so.
Yeah.
For me, it was much longer. My husband and I bought the businesses. We did not use like any of our own money. We did a little bit of financial creativity to fund our laundromat. And so we have a lot of loans, and we knew that going in, that was part of like, what we sold to the bank, that we'll be taking over the cleaning duties. So we'll be releasing the current cleaner. And I think that helped a lot develop the relationships with our customers and develop that trust and that communication with them, because they saw us. They would come in and, oh, I saw the new ownership sign, are you the owners? And so we are not fully attended still. In my I'm not in a very busy metro area. I'm not in New York City or LA or anything like that, so I'm not fully attended. I'm partially attended. I do have cleaners come in. It took about a year and a half to get to that point, and it just kind of got to the point where I was getting burnt out from being there every day. I mean, between my husband and myself, I was doing 5 or 6 days a week. He was doing like 3, 4 days a week, because it needs to be cleaned multiple times. It's not just you set it and forget it, or you can skip days. Christina had mentioned earlier how it just looks like a tornado went through. Like, so yeah, it was about a year and a half, and it really was just because I was getting burnt out. I probably should have done it a little bit sooner, but it was difficult for me to kind of let go of the thing that I was trying so hard to maintain, this persona. So it you have to get the right staff too, which is another big part of it, of the puzzle.
Yes. Which is a whole other webinar.
Business.
Yes. All right. So we're getting more questions in, but I'm going to kind of go back and forth here. So, Catherine, this one's going to be to you. So, we talked a little bit about machines will break, attendance will call off. Saturdays are probably one of your busiest, most chaotic days. So far, what has been your most stressful operational challenge that you deal with on a regular basis?
Oh, that is a very good question. My most stressful operating. So I find not having the proper staff coverage very stressful. I get very worried about that. I kind of ruminate on the fact that I'm stretching people and I don't want my people to be stretched. I just want to have them at, a level working out a set of hours. So I find that to be very stressful. And also that was new to me. And what else is new to me is the accounting. So I have an accountant who takes care of all of that. They do the books and everything, because I just was scared I was going to mess something up, and I would rather rely and pay a professional who knows exactly what they're doing. So that's what I did.
Yeah, good advice. We always say, like, when you're getting the laundromat, good accounting and a good lawyer are two things worth investing in. Christina or Kate, anything else you would want to add as your most stressful operational challenge?
I think the most stressful operational challenge is when your machines go down, especially, I mean, it's kind of always unexpected, right? So you mentioned Saturdays being a busy day. The machines never go down when you're slow. They always go down when you're busy, and it's interesting how the clientele handle it. Like I have 2 locations, and they couldn't be like the first. They're only 10 minutes apart, and they have the totally different clientele. I could have something leaking on one floor, and somebody would call me and be like, there's water all over the floor, and it could be a tiny little puddle. And then my other location, there could literally be water all over the floor, and I probably wouldn't even hear about it. I'd have to go to the store and find out. So operationally though, you want your machines running. That's what makes you money. If your machines are down, you're not generating income, especially if it's a large machine or it's a busy day where people really need that. And that happens frequently, especially as your machines start to age, or, customer misuse and things like that. So that's something that really poses a challenge and comes up very frequently.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up exactly what both Kate and Catherine said. They nailed it perfectly. For me, it's hard to say which one is more stressful than the other. It's kind of equal. The cleanliness, the machines up and running, and making sure you have your proper coverage, whether you're partially attended or fully attended. You need those folks there to keep it clean because keeping your laundromat clean is your reputation. Keeping the equipment up and running properly, nobody wants to walk in and seeing a lot of out of order signs and to seeing the place a mess. I mean, do you want to go do your laundry somewhere where if your clothes fall, do you want to re-wash it or do you feel okay dusting it off and going on? You have to keep it almost immaculately clean so they tell other people how beautifully clean it is and that your machines, you have great equipment and it's always operating and there's someone there to help them refund their money. Customer service is huge. Nobody wants to lose money and not know who to talk to get a refund. Or if the machine is not working properly, they need guidance, they need help. So customer service is also a stressful thing for me. I want to make sure everybody's getting their questions answered.
Yeah. The next one I'm going to open up to all three of you. So, we formed this women's laundry network to kind of bring women together and build connections because even though there's more and more women going into the industry, it's still a primarily male industry. So for any of the three of you, have you faced any unique challenges as a woman in the laundromat industry?
I think we all have. I I feel like being women in business in general is, there's always challenges that come with that. I would say one of the challenges that I think comes up frequently is being underestimated because we're women, like, oh, we can't possibly know what we're talking about. Or, sometimes I see the shocked look on customers' faces when they're they're interacting with me and then they say, oh, I actually was cleaning one day and I had a customer say, oh, they should hire you. And I said, they who? And she said, the owners. And I said, well, I am the owner. And she was like, oh, and I was shocked that came from another woman. I was shocked. I also had an instance where my husband and I were in the location because we are a partnership. We do everything together. And we were in the location at the same time, both wearing our shirts, both cleaning, literally like the same set of washers. And a customer popped in and made a comment, something to the effect of, oh, well, like you were going to hire me, to my husband, like joking around, and then said, oh, she's scared that I'm going to take her job. And my husband was like, but that's the owner. And he said, oh. So just consistently being underestimated, which at times we can absolutely use that to our advantage. So it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah. Stereotypes still there a little bit.
My experience has actually been pretty good. In the very, very beginning, being new to the business, I really didn't know the equipment extremely well, and I wasn't as familiar with plumbing and electrical as obviously I am now. So I sometimes would feel like when the repairman would come, it was kind of like I mentioned this in the podcast too, kind of like dropping your car off at the mechanic. It's making this weird noise, but I don't really know what's going on, and you're relying on that person to tell you the truth of what's really wrong with your car. And so I thought, I used to think he might be taking advantage of me because I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I would say over the years, I earned a lot of respect. I have not had any issues in this area because I took the time to take the classes in schools to learn my equipment, how to repair them, even if I don't physically do it, but I at least can diagnose the equipment and I know what's wrong and I can have the parts on hand. So I've gained a lot of respect in the industry with everybody I deal with, vendors, distributors, repair people, because they know I know what I'm doing. So it's really, ladies, and it is a very physical job. Remember, this is not an office job. It's very physical. So that's where the big difference is. That's why there's a lot of males in the industry. Women don't wake up one day and go, gee, I want to own a mechanic shop. We're not usually interested in cars or laundry equipment. So if you dive in and you learn, you will be treated with respect, I promise you.
Good advice. So now I kind of want to flip it. So we talked about challenges as a woman, but and any of the three of you could answer this. So what specific strengths do you think that women bring to running laundromats that sometimes get overlooked?
I'll jump in here. So I've worked in male dominated industries really my entire career. So that wasn't ever like a small barrier in my mind, dealing with guys. I mean, I would have 15 contractors in the space with me when I was pricing everything out. So a strength is project management skills. Ladies, you're married, you have kids, you run a household, you're doing this and that, and your pickleball and whatever else you do. You have project management skills. You're operating every single, let's say, a Dave Men's famous silo, and you're doing it. You can do it. You just need to budget for that time.
She's
Yes.
100% correct. And I would also say, I lost my train of thought. That's so bad. What was I about to say? It was so important too. Let's let Kate answer and then I'll hopefully it'll come
It'll
back.
come back to you. It
It will
will.
come back, but it goes back to what Catherine was saying. You're just balancing so much, and you
Right.
can do that. It's going to come back, and you'll know exactly where you left off. Catherine made such a fantastic point. I think as women, we really can, do all the things, and sometimes, you know, others can't do that as good. But I would say a strong point are just there's certain things that I personally excel at, and there's things that my husband excels at, and so it works great because we make a good team together. My husband, he does customer service, but not quite as good as I am, because I think he gets a little impatient sometimes. So and it's kind of the flip side too. If a customer is being rude or disrespectful, especially if it comes to my employees, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to be rude back. I'm always going to maintain professionality, but I'm not going to be nice and say, "Oh, it's okay." No, if I will fire a customer in a heartbeat if someone's being rude to myself or my employees or my equipment and my location. So I feel like we all have like our own strengths, and I feel like there's different things that we can bring to the table when it comes to the business.
That's the mama bear instinct.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say. It's really attention to detail. If you just kind of wrap up what the ladies are saying, we have style. We are concerned about how the laundromat looks, like a theme, or we make it look nice. And we're more attention to detail with the cleanliness. I've had many male employees over the years. Their physical strength is awesome, but they're not attention to detail and they won't clean like my female employees. And that's just a fact. That's just DNA. We can't change that. Maybe some men are extremely clean, but I've yet to meet one. But anyway, it's more of attention to detail, I would say.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna try to get through some of your questions that you posted here. So Kate and Christina, you described what you call the ramp up period. So how long, and this is kind of back at the beginning, how long would you say was sort of your ramp up?
I think I'm still ramping up. I'm 2.5 years in. I did not go in, as prepared. Catherine is just, she learned all the things and she absorbed everything and she just knows so much. I knew next to nothing. I saw one TikTok one time that said, "Hey, you should own a laundromat business." And then I decided that was my full personality. So, I'm still ramping up. I'm still in it. I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes. I don't know that I'll ever truly be perfect and know everything. I don't think that's a thing in any business, especially this business, and how it's always evolving and changing. So I would say I'm still ramping up, and I have so much more to grow and so many more things to do with my business. So I can't give you a specific time frame because I'm still in the thick of it right now.
I did not do the research Catherine did either. I saw
I
family.
feel better now.
Yeah,
You went
I
all
did not
in.
do that. I just saw them and it's like, wow, look how flexible that is. It's passive income. So I kind of went into it with that. But again, I was probably, well, see, my situation was a little different because we bought the laundromat. It was my mom, my dad, and my ex-husband and I, we bought it together. So between the four of us, we each had our own niche that we were handling with the business. And I was probably about 6.5 years deep when I then owned it on my own. My parents had gotten out, and then sadly, I went through a divorce. So it took me, by then we were very established. So I would say 5 to 6 years before the business was affording employees. And I really understood the business and I felt very grounded in it. But you're always going to be learning, like Kate said. I'm
Yep.
31 years deep, I'm still learning. So
Well,
it,
the business changes too. I mean, not
yes,
as quick as some industries,
oh,
but it still changes.
the equipment evolves, everything evolves.
Yes. Um, so we have a question here about reasonable base rent. I'm not sure we can answer that because I would assume this is based on where the location is. Um, I'm going to kind of change this question. Just a quick answer from the three of you. Do you own your property or do you lease? So Christina, looks like you lease.
I lease.
I leave.
Kate, you lease. And what about you, Kate?
I own both my buildings. So I had that conversation with the seller. When I dove in head first, I had said, "Are you looking to sell the business or the building?" And he said, for the right price, I could do both. And I said, "Okay, let me just start with the business because what if I'm terrible at it and I fail? And I have something to fall back on." But then 6 months in, I loved it. I dove in head first. I love it. I'm going to keep loving it, I think. And so I bought both the buildings and then I bought the second location shortly after.
Okay, so a good mix. So I know, Christina, you said you didn't do a ton of research. Kate, you did some. Catherine, it sounds like you did the most, but for some of these people on here are brand new, someone's asking, what are some good resources and tools that would help them sort of learn more about the business before they jump in? Do you have any
Start by joining the
recommendations?
CLA, attending
Yes,
these webinars.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. And I mean, now you have social media that you can do some research on too. The brokers in the area and other laundromat owners. I get people that call me all the time. They want to shadow me and just come and talk to me, and I let them. I answer their questions. Talk to other laundromat owners. There's a lot of very nice, open, transparent people out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of forums on Facebook. I am probably a part of any group that mentions the word laundromat in it. And now that I'm a little bit more experienced, I can actually contribute to those conversations. When I was newer, it was more me asking the very basic questions that was probably annoying everybody else. But there's so many forums out there where you can ask questions, join groups like this, follow the CLA, attend their in-person events, which I think has been the biggest differentiator for me. And they're not paying me to say this, just so everybody knows. When we started attending the in-person events, that was a game changer for me because the motivation behind being with other operators, like in my area, they're not as willing to share as Christina is. Unfortunately, Christina's across the country from me, or I would have reached out to her. But so I wasn't really around a lot of other owners, operators, or been able to share with them. So being in these spaces, I attended the Wash Dry Fold conference. I'm going to Excellence Women's. I went to the Clean Show. Those were game changers because the motivation that I felt behind seeing others that were doing such bigger, better things than me, that there's nothing else like that. So definitely do those things if you're planning on being in the business and you're serious about it.
Yeah, I would say to go to those in-person events. I haven't had the opportunity to go to many except for the Clean Show, which was just inspiring. It kind of like lights up something inside of you. You get that energy from the event. Aside from all of the other research yes, there are laundromat books. I read all the laundromat books, watched all the YouTubes, hashtag laundromat in them. Same thing with TikTok, Instagram. Read probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years of volumes of the Planet Laundry magazine while I was on the plane traveling for my day job, just reading those, just absorbing absolutely every piece of information that I could. Be a sponge and take in that information, whether or not you think it applies to you, because it's going to help you from everything to what your store looks like, what your equipment mix, what your equipment setup looks like. What paint colors are you choosing? Are you letting people use the bathrooms? Are you going to have locks on the bathrooms? There's just so many things out there to consider. So having all that information helps you kind of funnel that down to when you get to that finish line and are able to open your doors.
Yes, agree with all of it. And Catherine, you are like star student in all that you studied before jumping in. The next question someone was asking about if you have store managers, but I don't think any of you do the way you talked about your structure.
I do not. The goal is to eventually, we talked about ramping up period. I'm still kind of in that. So eventually, yes, I would like, especially as I branch out and, get additional locations, I will need someone that kind of takes the place of me in terms of managing things, managing inventory, refunds, things like that. But I don't have one right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a magic number, but somewhere in the 3 to 5 laundromats, they say that's when you probably need more of a structure. It's hard to be just the owner and do it all. Let's see, this one should be fairly quick. Do you offer wash, dry, fold, pickup and delivery, or dry cleaning, or just self-serve? Christina, it looks like you do wash and fold.
We do.
How about Kate and Catherine?
So I actually initially had said I wasn't going to ever get into wash, dry, fold or pickup and delivery, but after going to some of the in-person events and seeing some of the statistics, my mind got changed. And hearing other operators talk about how those portions of their business actually make more than their self-service revenue. So we're ramping up to get started with some pickup and delivery. We've done a few wash, dry, fold orders like as they come through. We have a couple of customers, so we're moving into that. And I just got signed up with one of the vendors that, facilitates that.
Well, good luck to you. How about you, Catherine?
Yes, we offer wash, dry, fold, and self-service.
Okay. Another sort of quick one, which I see Christina answered with the square footage of your laundromat. So yours is 2,000. What about Kate and Catherine?
Mine is 2,000.
So I have little laundromats compared to these ladies. I have a 1,500 square foot and a 950 square foot laundromat.
Yeah, 950. That's a nice size.
It's adorable.
Let's see. In regards to staffing your mat, it says figure out what your budget is for staffing. Oh, I think Ursula's giving some advice on figuring out your budget. And then will you use a payroll company? Do any of the three of you use like a Gusto or ADP or?
I do. I use a payroll company. Mine's called iSolved. So yeah, that's what I use.
I do not. I have made it my mission thus far are to do as low cost for almost everything as I possibly can. I also own every single thing inside of my laundromat, meaning like my vending machines and things like that. Like I don't outsource for that. Um,
Okay.
my tax preparer has created a spreadsheet that calculates the proper taxes for me, and I'm still depending on my employees. Sometimes they like Cash App, sometimes they like a paper check, depending on their demographic. So I'm doing that. I still do that myself. But I imagine, again, like we talked earlier, Danielle, like as you're growing, expanding, you have more locations, it will become a necessity. But for me right now, it's not.
She's right. I did my own payroll till about 5 years ago.
Okay. One small little plug. If you are a CLA member, we actually just this year started collaborating with Gusto. We've heard from a lot of owners that it's a fairly inexpensive tool to use for payroll. And you do get, I believe it's your first month free if you're a CLA member, so you can kind of try it out. So just a little plug there. All right, I'm trying to look through these. I think Landra has a question about wash and fold, but I feel like that's a whole other webinar to get into how you do wash and fold. Are any of your stores 24/7? And I assume you specifically chose, Catherine, you're shaking your head, like not to do 24/7.
No, not to not do it. It wasn't part of the system that I wanted to design for myself. And when I was trying to procure insurance, that was always a big question. And I would, just caution you, you may have difficulty finding insurance or good competitive insurance rates for 24-hour laundromat, at least from what I've seen.
Yes,
I
insurance can be
agree.
tough.
I agree with what Catherine said, but aside from that, it's just to me an operational nightmare. We talked about how we do a lot of work at home, and part of the work that I'm doing at home is reviewing my cameras. I have a two-way voice. So when someone's coming in the laundromat and they're not supposed to be there, or doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, I'm telling them over the camera. I want to be able to shut that off at a certain period of time. So we are 6 a.m.
Yeah.
to 10 p.m. I do allow customers to stay in the building after 10 o'clock. I have magnetic locks on the door. I check with them to make sure that they know how to exit. I make sure that they're doing the right things beforehand and that they are doing laundry. But I want to be able to reasonably place my head on the pillow and know that my store is taken care of, and not have that kind of like anxiousness of thinking that someone's there, something's going on. So I do not have a desire to go 24/7 at all.
Yeah.
I don't either. My demographics too. I'm in the most northern part of San Diego County, by the way. So I'm nowhere near the city. I'm about 45 minutes away from downtown San Diego. But, as you see on the news, we have a lot of homeless here, and you just don't want to do that. That's an absolute, you're just welcoming trouble here if you stay open 24 hours. I don't think we have any laundromats around that stay open 24 hours. You also have to watch out what your competitors are doing. If you're in a demographic, you really need to know what your competitors are doing, and that's going to help guide you make these types of decisions.
I always said to my kids, nothing good happens after midnight.
Yep.
Good advice.
I love some of the comments in here. There are so many women that say their husbands do the best cleaning.
I
Like
saw
one
that
works
after the
for-
comments
like,
I made. I've had to go in there and go, I'm so sorry.
yeah. So that's great.
Does he have a brother?
They are
Okay.
training them right.
Yes. That's great. Share the duties. This is a good one. So, what would be, I don't know that we have time for two or three, but if you can name, what would kind of be the biggest thing you wish you had known before getting into the business? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, it was hard for me to reprimand and fire employees. That was very, very difficult for me. It would hurt my heart to do it. And not that it wouldn't now, but your employees are your face of your business when you're not there. You have a reputation at stake. So that was really hard for me, and I wished I had known, what I was getting into. But you learn over time to make that a priority because your business is so important, your reputation, that you learn to let people go when it's necessary. But that was hard on me.
Yeah, I think to Christina's point, I see that a lot on the forums where people don't have like a people management background. I do, so I'm very comfortable hiring, firing, training. But I do see where people kind of step into this business and own the business and then are very uncomfortable with those aspects. So I do think that's an important thing. I'm going to just take it back to the equipment costs and just like the cost of operation. There's things that you wouldn't think. Like I have one set of washers that the one handle costs $300 if it gets broken. I had a customer like leaning on it one day and it just snapped off. So I wish that I knew that some of like the little things could add up very quickly. I guess that should be common knowledge, but to me it wasn't. And that's something I probably wish I would have known before I got into it, but I'm in it now. So
And Catherine, anything you wish you would have known? You're still fairly new. Maybe you.
Still, yes, but so many things. There's so many things I wish I knew. But this was my first experience doing it. It's kind of like a doctor learning how to do a surgery and then you go and do it. It's like, hopefully you're good. So I wish I would have strategized better for my SBA loan so I didn't have to spend as much cash at the end to cover all of the surprises. There were a few, surprises in a construction project, and I wish I didn't plan for that very well. So try to ask for more money than is necessary. Costs increase. You're going to apply for a loan and it's going to close 3 to 6 months later, and those costs go up. There's no way around it. So pad yourself a little bit, and you can ask your contractors to do that. Say, hey, my loan doesn't close for another 6 months. Please price this for 6 months in the future, etc. So yeah, ask for more money.
Yeah, we hear that a lot about that. There always are things that come up, and to try your best to plan for it. So it looks like our last question. I feel like this is a good question because I think as people don't know what they're getting into, they wonder, again, you see all those buckets of quarters and whatever, but in the end, if you guys are willing to be honest, are you earning enough to pay yourself a decent salary and save for those things that we all save for, retirement or kids, college, all those things? Because many times you're leaving a full-time job that does provide those. So do you feel like you made the right choice and you're in a good place with that?
I feel I made an excellent choice. It supported me as a single mom all the way through. 11 years ago, I did become a realtor, because the sign of the times, things are going up. So the profit margin has narrowed a bit, but I've always made a profit and I've always done well. It's a business I'm very proud of, and I would never ever not do it. I would do it all over again.
That's great.
yeah, I made the right decision, definitely. But we talked about the ramping up period. I'm still in the ramping up period. I'm not taking a suitable salary for myself. It could not replace a full-time income at this point. I know that. I'm in it for the long haul and the long game. This wasn't a get rich quick scheme for me. I am planning on my and my husband's retirement, and so this is for us to have future income. So we have a lot of loans and things, as I mentioned earlier, and that's what we're working on right now. And in the future, it will pay its dividends.
Good plan.
No, I haven't taken any money from the business. It's not even in the green yet. So I do hope within the year that I have, some vacation money, in 2 years, enough money to buy another laundromat, and then add on to that vacation to a retirement laundromat, and so forth. So I still have my day job. This is my side gig, and hopefully someday it grows into something that I could consider as, a full-time project.
Well, someday you'll be Christina. You'll be in the business for many years. And so I think that's been the great thing about the panelists we had today. So we have Catherine, who's brand new, just getting in. Kate's kind of in the midst of it. And Christina has been doing it, for quite a while. So you kind of got the gamut. So I know we didn't get to all questions, and I feel like this could have been scheduled for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But I do try to be conscientious of people's time because everyone has jobs, kids, family, whatever it else is that you need to do. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes. I know we talked about some resources, but I want to share a few things with you that CLA has coming up. So we continue to do our virtual events. For those of you who maybe can't take the time to get to a face-to-face event. So I saw several of you are brand new, looking to get into the business. So each month we do a webinar called How to Start a Laundromat. The next one's coming up April 14th. It's an hour and a half. The president and CEO of CLA, he presents about a half hour. He usually has a guest on that is a current store owner, and then opens it up to questions. So it's your chance to ask a lot more of those detailed questions about finances and leases and demographics and all those things. So it's free. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking to get in, that you attend that. Our Women's Laundry Network, our next webinar, we're excited that we have a face-to-face event coming up, which I'll get to, but the speaker at the face-to-face event is going to give us a little preview of what she'll talk about in a virtual event on April 15th. So it's a 1 hour, and it revolves around mental resilience and grit. So I think it's going to be a great session. And then April 22nd, we're working with Sense to put on a webinar on card, mobile, and more, modernizing your laundromat's payment experience. So again, if you're at Coin and you're looking to make a change, or you're brand new and trying to figure out what all the payment options are, all webinars are free. So if you go to this events calendar, you can see all the ones coming up. So we talked about the value of face-to-face events. We do events called Connect Live, and they are local, just 2-hour dinner networking events. So a good chance to meet usually somewhere around 20 to 40 people. So just a nice small group of people. These are the ones coming up. New York is this week, Charlotte on the 26th, and then Dallas, and then New England. Again, if you go on the website, you'll see where we're going the rest of the year. Love this picture. This was at Clean Show. So anybody who came to the women's luncheon, you probably saw all of us up there taking some pictures. So our sort of premier event, which has been talked about a little bit, it's taking what we did today, but putting it in a place where we can talk face to face. It's a full day where we will have speakers, we'll have lots of networking opportunities. The night before, we're starting with yoga on the beach because it's in Hilton Head Island, and then a full day. This was a picture of us near Christina. It was actually in San Diego a few years ago, but we typically do it at very nice locations. It's just such a feel-good, energizing event. It's a mix of women. So we have people who own stores, people who want to own stores, and ladies that work for some of the companies that provide the products and services. So it's quite a mix of people. The topics are more like today. They're not so operational. It's more about being a woman in the industry. And alongside with our excellent women, we have a event called Excellence in Laundry. So Excellent Women is on May 5th, and then Excellence starts with the reception the night of the 5th and goes through the 7th. Excellence is for everyone. A little bit bigger event. We get 250 operators across the country. Again, 2 days of speakers and education, and again, lots of networking, all at a pretty amazing resort. So if you decide you'd like to attend both, we do offer a discounted bundle. The hotel for those, the deadline is April 14th. So if you're thinking about coming, I would sooner than later get your hotel, because those do usually sell out. So with that, thank you so much, Christina, Kate, Catherine. Thank you to some of the other store owners. I think Ursula and some others, Raina, were chiming in and answering questions. That's what this is all about, making connections, helping people in the industry. As I mentioned at the beginning, this was recorded, so it'll go on our YouTube channel. You will get a link to the Women's Laundry Network playlist on YouTube, where we'll have this, and there's lots of other videos and programs in case you missed some. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, and hope to see at least some of you in Hilton Head.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Audio Jungle.